everything is loading, charging. All bars in green or red. You can pick.
Oh yeah, something's spinning. Oh no, it's my face.
It's your face is spinning. I don't think that's
That's it.
what's supposed to happen.
All right, it works.
Yeah, it works for you.
Yeah.
Things are still loading here, but I'll. Oh yeah, I see your face. That's a lot to see. As in, that's pretty successful already.
Yeah, so let's see what happens if I click play.
And I was hoping to see
There it
subtitles in
goes.
the app, but that's not available. Looking good.
Yeah.
So we'll just wait for a few minutes for people to join us. There are all these people that get notifications now. At least that's what I hope.
They all come stampeding in.
Yeah, and if you have the stream open in a website, you can even activate captions. They are automated captions, not my preferred type of captions, but they are captions. So that's the important part, right? It's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my first time on Twitch is quite something.
Yeah. How does it feel? Like a meeting, probably.
Old.
Old. You feel old just having a meeting on Twitch.
Yeah.
That goes rather fast.
It does. It does. All right. You want to do a bit of an intro, Eric, or you want to wait a bit?
Yeah,
Or
I'm just gonna assume that people don't know who we are. I think that's a reasonable assumption. So I'm just gonna start with me, and then you take the wheel.
sure thing.
So I am Eric. I'm the host of this show. I can say it's a show now, right? This is not the first episode, so we can call it a show now. I am a accessibility consultant. I work in a team at ING, a Dutch bank, where I focus completely on accessibility. And when did this happen? In February, I got an operation, brain surgery. That gives you a lot of spare time. It's meant to like exercise and stuff and get better. I used that time to start a stream. I thought that was good for me. I don't know why. I don't think I'll ever understand why. But we started it anyway. And today, on Global Accessibility Awareness Day, we have Job with us. Job has had a presentation before on CAPTCHAs. And I know everybody is a fan of CAPTCHAs. So, Job, tell us a bit about yourself. Or CAPTCHAs,
Yeah.
or both.
Before that, Eric, are we supposed to not be able to see you on the screen?
Oh, I can see you.
But I can't see
think
you.
I can do all kinds of layouts. See, we have this meeting tool that can do all kinds of things. This is me. That's clear.
Oh yeah, there you are.
I think I can drag and. Are you used to this software?
No, I don't know if Google Meet even supports this. Maybe it doesn't have that sort of speaker layout. You'd think, eh?
Yeah, it
Strange.
would be logical.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do all this tiled. I mean, but it's all you. It's all you.
Yeah.
But I can do something else. We just don't use Google. So I'm just gonna stick to sidebar. So many options. I'm gonna stick to auto because that works. And then I'm gonna enable my video capture. I think it's this one. I have all kinds of fancy buttons to press. You don't know what's happening, and maybe that's a good thing, but...
Oh, hey, Show made it.
That's no
Hi,
signal.
Show.
No. Hey, yeah. Hi, Shell. Welcome. No, I don't think I can add myself right now. Too many buttons to press.
Oh, yeah, there's a
We're
nice
just gonna
hack.
look at you. Yeah.
Just join
when we
again.
go to the more open part of the show, then we'll show both screens, right? Then I'll share your
good.
faith.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Job Achterberg. I'm from the Netherlands. I've done a fair amount of work in accessibility, not so much these days. But at some point I gave a talk about CAPTCHAs, and Eric asked, hey, how about you talk about it on my stream? So sure, why not? There's one caveat for today. I am a volunteer firefighter and I am on call. If my pager goes, I have to go. I cannot not go. I'm on a particular type of duty called piquet, which means that I'm expected to show up. We're a volunteer department, so we have a whole bunch more people than we need to make sure we can fill the trucks. But because today is a holiday, it's Ascension Day, I have to show up. I already had a fire today. Uh,
Barbecuing?
how? No, it's a house fire in solar panels. Probably a short circuit. So I already spent time in my suit in 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That was no fun. I'd like to not do it again. So let's hope nothing happens.
And if you do get solar panels, get somebody else to install them.
Or just yeah, don't have some cheap company do it. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I don't want to give you a presentation, so I just hope no more people with solar panels then.
Exactly. Or with little luck, it's a false alarm, and I'll be back a minute later. But
that would be nice.
You never know.
Yeah. Then it's question time.
Right. Exactly. Somebody asks in Dutch whether there's an image yet because they can't see anything.
I am streaming, and you should see 2007, which is the first slide, and the face of Job. Always the face of Job.
Always the face, yeah.
And I do see stuff on all my apps and applications and everything. You were a bit early, so maybe if you refresh, it works. I have... it's moving too. Oh, that's scary. That's only the first slide.
Well, I can start talking and going through my slides, and we can see where it goes from there.
Yeah. One of the reasons I picked Twitch is because it's on every platform. So if your laptop doesn't work, maybe grab a phone or a television or anything that's grabbable within range. I don't know. But yeah, let's get started. Let's try this.
Cool. So you might be wondering why this slide has this year on it, and that's because it's a bit of a story. So imagine that it's the year 2007 and you and all your friends, you have been waiting months to go to the Miley Cyrus Best of Both Worlds tour. You've been all using your flip phones. You've been texting each other. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so great. It's going to be so great. You were going to buy your tickets on Ticketmaster, which is a site that still exists now, but back then also did. And so you'd wait for the sales to open, and you'd show up, and you kind of see the digital version of this. There's like 2,000 people in front of you. But then you look a bit closer, and it turns out, wait a second, there's more like 2,000 bots in front of you. These would be automated requests made by ticket scalpers. And they would buy all the tickets, form a huge queue, and they'd sell the tickets on the black market. Now, at some point, Ticketmaster tried to prevent this from happening. So what they did is they started to use these annoying things. And you'd have to decipher the word with all the lines and the textures. And if you got that, you could actually buy the ticket. You would prove that you were legit. This was called a CAPTCHA. And CAPTCHA stood for Completely Automated Public Turing Test to Tell Computers and Humans Apart. And in the first paper about CAPTCHAs, they said, well, a CAPTCHA is a program that can generate and grade tests that most humans can pass, but current computer programs can't pass. Now, the word current is important there. And they said that a CAPTCHA is a program that can generate and grade tests that itself cannot pass, much like some professors. Now, the first idea for a CAPTCHA was actually a patent, and it was made for a search engine called Alta Vista. It was kind of Google for old people. And what Alta Vista had is they had this problem with people trying to index their spam sites into the search database. So they'd have these automated processes submitting them to this URL, and Alta Vista tried to prevent that sort of abuse. So the patent said, okay, we have this random generator, and it jumbles the characters, and it inserts some noise, and then people can still kind of figure that out, but most computer programs can't. And what's interesting in this patent from 2001 is that it says, well, the riddle doesn't necessarily need to be presented to the user as an image on a display device. It already talks about having an audible version. It accounts for OCR breaking and for what they call relaxed checking. So, say you try to solve the CAPTCHA for a couple times. You clearly kept failing. Well, maybe you'd get a different type of CAPTCHA, because maybe the problem isn't that you're a bot. Maybe the problem is that you have trouble with this particular CAPTCHA. Now, of course, this is just in the patent, and nobody ended up doing most of these things, but still, it was in there, and that's important. Now, in the patent, they also describe, well, this is what this would look like, and we've seen these things, and they have a bunch of jumbled characters, and you try to figure these things out, and that's what that was. But then why are they called Turing tests?
I think I've seen this pattern not just online, but I think there was an art project that did this as sort of street art. So you could walk through a city and see this on a wall.
And oh, yeah, totally, that's actually a couple slides down.
Ah, perfect. Oh, I'm ruining stuff. Sorry.
No, you're not ruining at all. Please interrupt if you have things to say.
I loved it, so thanks.
Alan Turing said in a paper from the 1950s, I propose to consider the question, can machines think? And this was a thought experiment. Basically, you would have a screen and a printer in a wall. And you could use a keyboard to ask a question. Let's say, what's bigger, Mount Everest or a shoebox? And then on the ticker tape, you'd get the answer. And the question was, could a computer program be such as to be able to fool you that it can think? Not can a computer think, but can at least appear as if it can think. And in the 1950s, computers weren't all that great at these things. Richard Feynman says, let me remind you of some of the problems of computing machines, where he said that, well, if I have a picture of a person, I can see it. It's a person. If the light is different, if the face moves around, if it tilts, I can still see it's a person. A computer can't. If you want to do that, you'd have to build a computer like the size of the Pentagon. And this was in, I think, the 1960s that he gave this lecture, and the largest hard drive was like an IBM thing of 3.75 megabytes, and I don't know, probably had to be logged in by 5 strong people. So we've come a long way since then. But back then, these things were called hard AI problems. And you would ask me, so Job, what's a hard AI problem? It is a problem of which AI researchers agree that it is hard. That is the definition. Pretty clear. So we're trying to answer the question, what is a human?
It really aligns with my vision on AI and why it's popular. Because
how so?
If I understand it correctly, it's basically not that AI theory and software programming got better. We just got faster PCs. So our PCs can handle it now. That's the difference.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, that's a lot of that is done. Is a consequence of that, and that's actually coming up further because computers keep getting better and humans kind of don't. Anyway, these first CAPTCHAs were kind of a way to see, well, is the agent that's interacting with the puzzle, is that person a human or not? And that's not a new question. Way back when, the philosopher Plato asked, he posited that a man is a featherless biped. Now, there was another man in those days called Diogenes, and he was kind of the original troll. He was known for living naked in a large mason jar, and he would masturbate in public, and he would go to Plato's lectures, and he would eat food there and be obnoxious and loud. So here he is, a famous painting. He's carrying a candle in the middle of the day, looking for an honest man, but all he found were scoundrels, he would say. Anyway, he shows up at Plato's lecture. Plato says, a man is a featherless biped. He shows up, behold, I have brought you a man, while brandishing a plucked chicken. So I am sure that Plato was a bit surprised when that happened. But he refined his algorithm and said, okay, then, a man is a featherless biped with broad, flat nails. So what Plato did is he tried to find this algorithm that with properly fitted data would tell you whether a particular thing was a human or not. Now, we try to do this in machine learning as well, and in in statistics, we try to find algorithms that match the data. So you can have an underfitted algorithm. It's very flexible and give it lots of data, but it won't be right most of the time. You kind of want to have a Goldilocks algorithm where it's not too overfitted. When you give it something it doesn't know, it confused and doesn't know what at all to make of it. You kind of want something that is right most of the time. So, for instance, that's network is. Those are basically glorified probability engines.
I missed a small bit of audio there. What did you say again?
Well, I don't know which part you missed, but I was saying that you kind of want an algorithm that gets the answer right most of the time, more often than not, and that is not really confused by things that are slightly out of the ordinary. That's what we try to do when we build a neural network. We train it with data, and they're basically glorified probability engines. So imagine we build a neural network and we feed it a lot of data. Our goal is that we can distinguish dogs from wolves. So we want to give this neural network a picture, and the neural network will say, this is a dog or this is a wolf. So first you train the network. That's called supervised learning. You feed it loads of data and you say, this is A, this is B, this is A, this is B. And then you think, okay, I've got a good enough corpus of data. I'm going to give it an example where it has to tell me what it thinks. And you give it a bunch of pictures and it gets it right. And then suddenly it tells you, when you give it a picture of a husky, well, it's a wolf. And you would think, okay, but a husky sort of looks like a wolf, right? But you've given it huskies before. Why does it get it wrong? Well, a lot of pictures of wolves are made of wolves when they're standing in snow. Was standing in snow. Therefore, the network, which doesn't really know what a dog is or a wolf is, it says, oh, this snow is relevant to whatever constitutes the abstract concept of wolf. Therefore, this is now a wolf. If you put a chihuahua in snow, it'd probably be classified as a wolf. If you put a wolf in your living room, it would probably be classified as a dog, based on how the network learned what the world is.
Are you now advising people to put wolves in their living room, or?
I'm not doing such a thing at all, unless you're trying to train a neural network. But make sure to muzzle the wolf.
Then it's all out. Okay.
Yeah. So context is hugely important. An issue with neural networks is they don't really understand meaning the way humans do. So imagine, here's a picture of a restroom symbol, and the left has a silhouette of a girl with a what's that called? A hood and a basket. And on the right, there's what looks like a wolf dressed up in grandma's clothes. Now, to a neural network, this makes no sense at all because it doesn't know all that context. It doesn't really know what that means. To us, it makes sense because we know the story, and stories are a huge deal of how we find meaning in things. And I've played around with these engines. There's a Microsoft neural network where you can feed it images and it will try to tell you what they are. And so, for instance, I gave it this famous painting of Christ on the cross, and it told me, oh, that's a person posing for a picture. And I'm thinking, yeah, sort of. I mean,
yeah, it's at the level of Facebook alt text. Image could contain person posing cross.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you can see that the network only knows so much. So the philosopher Nietzsche said, what was silent in the Father speaks in the Son, and they often found in the Son the unveiled secret of the Father. Now, Nietzsche wasn't talking about neural networks. He was talking about different things. But what I like about this quote is that it kind of tells you that if you train somebody else, if you raise a child, if you train a neural network, your unconscious self is going to be reflected in that other person that you raised or that network that you trained. I mean, you can show a neural network a picture of a young boy holding a baby goat. And usually the network doesn't know what to make of that because that doesn't exist in its world. So it will say, oh, it's a child holding an animal, or it's a child holding a dog. And it's like that, where because it doesn't exist in the reality of the animal, of the network doesn't know what it is. Anyway, that didn't stop anyone. We still tried to use CAPTCHAs to determine whether somebody was a human or not. And they had many different forms, many different types. they used lots of different concepts like noise and warping, and I forgot some of these terms, but you get the idea.
Yeah, they
And
just
human,
grab every filter available to see how they can break up the image, basically.
right?
Wow.
But they're also really dependent on what we know humans to be good at. We also, while we're trying to determine what a human is, we also try to determine what a human is not. And well, as far as we are concerned, we are really good at eliminating noise. And there's actually a very interesting paper by Microsoft in 2005 where they did a whole study on, well, how far can you push this until humans really don't understand this anymore? So they would take several types of warping text, and you can see in this image that suddenly at the level of about 300 warp value, it drops. We're doing pretty decent as humans. Suddenly there's a steep drop. Like that's clearly the limit, the drempel
Yeah,
where humans
the
just
threshold.
fail.
And they
Yes,
actually have a
exactly. Think.
measurable amount of warp. I mean, how do you
Yes,
measure warp? That's already interesting, but sure.
that's the warp algorithm in this
Yeah.
case. But yeah, then they would experiment. Well, how about local warp? And you can see humans are still doing pretty decent. There's a bit more variation there, and now we start playing with even more warping and local and global warp. And well, we do a bit better, but there's still this slow descent of, well, I don't know what to make of this. And in the end, in this paper, they found that, okay, thick foreground arcs are best, and they're still really difficult for computer hackers to solve. But you can see humans, they do pretty decent, but at about level 25 here, we're already doing pretty bad. Some other interesting tidbits from this study is that, well, humans themselves only agreed so much. The audio CAPTCHAs, 30% around that agreed on what they meant. On 33.6%, everybody had a different answer. And PhDs were the best at solving audio CAPTCHAs.
So I
I don't know
guess
why.
if you're solving CAPTCHAs, it's better to do them alone at least. Otherwise, you might disagree.
I think if you're already suffering like that, you already want to be alone. Who wants to see somebody else trying to suffer through these things?
Lots
Anyway,
of designers want this apparently.
what, have people suffer?
Yeah.
Surely not. I don't know. I have a whole different presentation on disability simulations and empathy exercises.
We'll save that for some other
we
time.
can talk about it at some other point. I think Shell saw that. She knows if it's any decent. Anyway, at some point, the same people who came up with the first CAPTCHA patent, they had a different idea. I mean, their intentions were good.
Shell just replies that she says she wants to hear that one again. So I'm sorry.
Oh, well,
You're
happily.
not finished yet.
What they did is back then there were these digitization projects for books, and they figured, well, there are a number of OCR issues where the digitization project won't know what certain words are. How about we outsource that, and we use CAPTCHA systems to to fix this? So they'd give you one word that they knew was what it was, and the other word they weren't sure. So they would use the one word to verify that you weren't trying to screw with their data. And then if you get the first one right, that the one they already knew, you probably also had the other one right. And then they would just go statistically, do people give the same answer? And this was eventually bought by Google. It became reCAPTCHA. And it, back in the day, it was pretty decent. It was still not great, but it worked. And at some point, there was a CAPTCHA, and it was called Inglip Summoned. And that created this weird Reddit internet cult where people thought that it was a god that they were communicating with through these CAPTCHAs, and their god wanted them to do certain things. And it became this whole subreddit with lots of memes and just really strange. And
this is why Reddit can be fun. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen this one. There's some good stuff on there.
Inglip has gone silent since because reCAPTCHA doesn't exist anymore in this form, so it's gone now.
No, it has stopped speaking to us.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of funny comics like wait here and then yes, master. He just sits there. Eventually, people would dress up, and I mean, it's just humans are lovely when they do stuff like this. It's just art. I love seeing this stuff.
Can AI do this? Like, Can AI dress up like a CAPTCHA?
I think this is a large way of how we distinguish ourselves from machines. But then we go into a whole different type of conversation, and
We
but and
we
I
can
can't
we
I
can go
can't go
anywhere
into that.
today. So
Yeah. But then it's like, what makes us really people, and what makes us special, and then I see all the stuff that people do in during COVID, and the ideas we get, and the way that we start interacting differently, and we blow AI out of the water when it comes to coming up with interesting ideas.
or less
Eh,
interesting.
Probably, but
Just ideas in
let's
general.
focus on
Yeah.
the positive here. Anyway, there are audio captures too. They don't tend to work when I try to present, but imagine that it's kind of like a Rammstein song. So there's a bunch of numbers in a computer voice. So 3, 5, 9, 9. It's kind of like Rammstein that way. So, actually, I have some audio here. Okay. Did that come through? No, because it's probably only on my audio feed.
You can
At some
repeat it
point,
for us.
well, what they would do is they take random snippets from TV shows, and then you'd have to type the words. But I've listened to these in Dutch, and the algorithm clearly just took like some random snippet, cutting out in the middle of words, and they're so difficult. But there's also a whole bunch of just bizarre captchas like this one, where you have to you look at a color coded resistor, and then you have to match the right resistance. And this was on a site called adafruits.com. So in their defense, that was a shop where you would buy electrical components and ham radio stuff and Raspberry Pis. And
So basically, this is a CAPTCHA with a target group.
yes,
Nice.
it no longer exists. This was a WordPress plugin.
Beautiful.
It is. It's also, again, human creativity.
Yeah.
This is on hotels.com. I think it's broken, to be honest. I don't I don't think it's supposed to do this.
How do you know?
Yeah, I know, right? That's it's kind of a Rorschach. It's a kind of a Rorschach test. I wish it wouldn't keep displaying my parents fighting, but anyway,
Just
here's
stop it
another one.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, here's another one. This is Alibaba. So imagine, let's go buy something. All right, slide to the right. No, you didn't get it. Slide to the right.
Clearly, you robot.
Slide. Come on. You got it. I have to do another one. This is just insulting. Oh, it's just so terrible. Anyway, here's some more. A question-based CAPTCHA. Please answer the following question. There is one, what I think is a pencil, 4 more pencils, and 4, I think, bananas or yellow velociraptor claws in the room. How many stationaries are in the room?
This is the average message shared on Facebook, I think, right? With these kind of riddles.
Yeah, with the little Einstein next to it. I actually had to look up what a stationary was, because I had to think of trains, like train stationary. I know. So
no trains.
How about this one? I think it's a tiger, but it's also a form of cat. But it's also kind of a strange tiger. Maybe it's a horse. Anyone, any of you ever had these children's books? Like, what's the animal? What sound does the animal make? It's kind of insulting.
You know what the worst ones are? I'm learning now because my kid is 3-year-old.
Yeah.
You get these like 4 items or something, and they say which one doesn't belong, and they don't tell you why or whatever, and you can make up so many reasons.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's perfectly aligned with this.
Oh, I have to get some of those books for. Okay. Anyway,
they're terrible. So in a good way. Yeah.
How about this kind of dystopian? Imagine you're living in some dystopian future world, and before you can buy it, you have to, or log in, you have to identify some product, and then you have to watch the ad. Anyway, this is awful. I won't go further. Pathfinder.com. This is all old stuff, but it's a
really
bit of
familiar
in
a way.
Well, yeah, because eventually, sort of reCAPTCHA, Google's reCAPTCHA v2 started doing this.
This is better than traffic lights. I mean,
yes, yeah. At least you get to learn something about cats, and we all like looking at cat pictures. So
yeah.
animal sounds. Like, okay, we play a sound, and which sound is it, and which animal does it go with? Are we having fun yet? Aren't you? Are we not in elementary school?
This is
What if you're deaf?
this one does not work in an urban environment.
That too, yeah. What is this bird? What is this thing? A bunch of images, and they're all rotated. You have to select the one with the car. And well, for one, there's a condition called aphantasia, where you can't rotate concepts in your mind's eye. That's already a problem here. And if you're blind, of course. Oh well. You have to look at a little movie and then describe what the movie is.
Back to school.
Yes. I'm just trying to buy a toilet brush. Why is this so difficult? It just makes no sense.
Give me your brush. Yeah.
How about the puzzle? Because we're already just having such a great day, and we just want to spend all this time doing a shifting puzzle. That's just, oh no, oh no, oh man.
Emergency.
Okay, yeah, but this is a priority too. You guys talk. I can probably be back in a couple of minutes. All right.
Okay, we're just gonna try it. I'm just gonna put myself full screen. It's what I do usually. So.
Okay. Bye bye. Back in a bit.
Okay. So I'm just gonna switch. That's the fun we're having here. I'm just gonna put, not the chat. No, I think I can put myself full screen. Yay! So Job has already told us a little bit about CAPTCHAs. Are there any questions right now? Yes, there is a fire. Yeah. Or at least he got a message. He doesn't know yet what kind of fire it is. Is it big or emergency or whatever? And now we find out. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he doesn't. They have to stay here with me. We're just going to solve the issues together. I thought there was one last question here about Julien. Aren't all those methods based on effort? What do you mean by effort? I mean, they're not physical. Now Julien is typing in all his devices. Detergent, yes, that's in the background. One day I'll get a real camera and you won't see my background. So Julien, any clarification on the message? If you have enough different methods, yes. I'm looking to my right because my screen is there. That's just a luxury that I have. Yeah, so if you have enough different methods, it's too much work to solve them and it's just not worth it. So you were thinking like, you just saw the worst CAPTCHAs in the world. You said, why not use them all? That's basically what I pick up from this. Because people won't solve all of them. Well, I'm not the specialist here, of course. But we've seen how much work can be done in open source. I think if one team takes one CAPTCHA and another takes another, I think the creativity of solving them eventually beats the creativity of creating them. But I think the whole span of solving and creating is something Job wants to present about some more. Just gonna check. No, still an empty room. You have a horrible phone keyboard. Yeah, I've started noticing that. Phone keyboards are terrible. Are there any other questions maybe while Julien reformats his question that are not about my laundry detergent? It's neutral, by the way. What other things do I stream on Twitch? Well, I'm still recovering from brain surgery, so I'm pretty tired at the moment. I'm planning a weekly accessibility session. I was hoping to invite a lot of people. I thought
I'm back.
Oh, you're back? Okay.
Yeah, lots of people showed up, so I could get somebody else in my place.
Oh, that's perfect.
All right.
So I can hear you're out of breath. I still answer the last question. The question was, what am I going to stream on Twitch? Well, right now we're doing accessibility. I want to stream about accessibility every week. We started last week with me in person, just answering questions and testing something live on stream. But I hope every other week, so once every 2 weeks, we have somebody that can present. And I already have a way too long list of people and subjects that I want to go through. So they could be UX topics, they could be code topics, they can be pretty much everything. Well, right now we have CAPTCHA. Is that UX? Is that development? I don't know. It's a little bit of everything. I just want to host a lot of people. I think that's basically the thing. So accessibility, hosting a lot of people, that's the goal. Sharing knowledge and experience, because I think there are a lot of sources where you can just read the specification or whatever, and actually sharing your experience and showing how you do things and have the option to ask questions. I think we don't have those options enough. And for the other moments in the week, well, I do have Animal Crossing installed, of course, so that's very important. How can we do without Animal Crossing? So I would like to play some games and just enjoy myself. I also have a big wish to buy a pen plotter. So that's basically a device that draws with a pen. It's like the predecessor of a printer. It sounds so ancient when you say it like that, but they're really fun. So yeah, the core right now is accessibility, and if I get more energy, we'll stream other things as well. But accessibility for now. So Job, you got a call?
Yeah, but I can see on the pager, so it
You can
is
keep
these
track.
old-fashioned things, and
What
you can
works,
see
that
it.
works. Yeah. You don't have to
Yeah,
tell
you
the
can see.
pager that you're a human, so that helps.
You can see, oh, it's a container. Okay, cool. That's not a big deal. We have enough people to fill 2 trucks. We only need to have 1 truck for a container. You just dump some water on the fire, and you're good. But it takes a while. You have to pack up again and be gone for about half an hour. So
Good.
luckily, plenty of people showed. Okay.
I've got one question here on my phone because somebody cannot enter the chat. I don't know why.
Okay.
We'll find it out later, I hope. And I think it's a question that will be answered later. But what is an alternative to CAPTCHAs?
Yeah, I would like to answer that as part of my going towards a conclusion. So that will be mentioned.
And I think I missed one thing. What does CAPTCHA stand for?
That was one of the earlier slides. Completely automated public.
Turing.
Yeah, but oh, geez, this is horrible. Completely automated public. Turing tested how computers and humans apart.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
Well,
yeah, I understand why you only mention it once.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have my notes.
Yeah.
All right. It's called motion capture. This was a proof of concept, and it was it was interesting. But you had to with your mouse complete the squiggle, and then if you complete the squiggle, you get through. It's a fun tryout, but of course it has a bunch of problems. Lots of people try to use sign language, which is interesting. Like there are multiple different type ways that people designed CAPTCHAs using signs. But of course, it doesn't work when you're blind, for instance, and not everybody can use signs properly. And nowadays, should be able to pretty easily break this with a neural network as well. But again, we're trying to exploit things like what makes somebody human, what's special about them. For instance, one thing we are particularly good at is seeing faces in things. There's a part in our brain. It's none of my notes. I think it's called the fusiform gyrus. I should have warned there's a picture of a brain. Anyway, too late now. And so the fusiform gyrus, they've done experiments with it where they would poke at it with an electrode. And people who they do that, they'd be awake and they'd say, oh, people's faces would morph and distort. Talk about live debugging, where they're just kind of poking with things in your brain.
They ran out of monkeys for this, or?
I think it was just part of brain research. Yeah, I mean, I'm studying psychology right now, and the amount of questionable studies that have been there through history is just, it's awful, especially on monkeys. Where was I? Oh yes, seeing faces. We're really good at that. It's called pareidolia, and we see it in all sorts of stuff, like in trees and in clocks. And there's a whole subreddit dedicated to that sort of stuff. So somebody said, "Hey, why not just use a captcha with with that?" And people are like, "Okay, well, we're not sure what this is. We are equally divided in evaluating the overall ease of use." And in that same paper, it says we were also very disturbed by this. So people try other things, like, okay, what is this? No, this one's fake. This one's not real. It could have been though. I wouldn't put it past people to try something like this.
Maybe we could come
Uh,
up with some new captchas.
yeah, here's not a joke one. I like this one. There's a whole bunch of patents that never saw the light of day. Amazon tried things with cognitive psychology and mood detection and using optical illusions. Why? Um, I imagine they use these things where you can see 3D if you look at them a certain way, like these images, you can see a three-dimensional thing come out. Um, I have something called esotropia, which means that my right eye is correct and the brain is correct, but the during the flexible part of the upbringing of the child, the connection wasn't made well. So my brain never learned to see with this eye; it only learned to see with this eye. Anyway, they tried to use touchscreen events, keystrokes, all that stuff. Again,
Those
what is a human being? What can they do? What are they good at?
those 3D depth images, I just get stuck
Yeah,
in them. Like I don't see anything.
yeah. Well, you might have something similar to what I have if you're unable to see them. I mean, imagine when I go to the cinema, I bring my own 2D glasses because I get enough of the double image to get a headache because the eye slightly works. So I bring my own canceling glasses that just give me a 2D image. All right. How about you identify the number of squares in the drawing, or sum the integers in a row, or map the country to the landmass, the flag to the landmass? And I'm thinking, am I still in school? Like, okay, which country has this flag? What's the sum of the numbers? How many squares do you see? It's insulting.
I'm really glad that you said that the other one was fake because I just don't know anymore.
Yeah, at this point, that's the thing, man. How about you want a low device driver and you have to fix the captcha? Yeah, I don't think they ever did this, but it was a patent that they submitted.
Yeah, please don't install a device robot because then you will have a device that you can use against us or something. I don't know. Why would you stop somebody from installing a driver?
I don't know. I don't know. University student figured, well, we can use image distortion, and you have to see it. Well, what's the original image that got distorted here? So again, can we as humans deconstruct patterns? A human is a featherless biped with broad flat nails who knows the flag of India and can understand what a face looks like. And we get this very narrow definition of what an average human is like. How about this? You have to drag 4 white circles into the bin with the orange C. But while we do that, we're also going to measure how you behave, what sort of movements you make. Uh, it's it's these stupid puzzles you'd get in your box of candy with the little marble that you'd have to move down the path, and it was that was difficult enough doing for fun. Imagine having to do it to buy a toilet brush.
And at least with the physical one, you can just remove the cap and fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, oh, I never thought of that. Uh, Advertisement-based human interactive proof. So, please type the name of the project you see in this product you see in this picture. Or to send a message, type the slogan and do the little Microsoft dance. That's what this makes me think of. I don't think they ever used this, but again, it was a patent. What this keeps reminding me of is what's called the Mott and the Bailey. You keep retracting and retracting and retracting further back, further back, further back. What do we still define as human, given how better and better and better computers get at pretending that they're human? How far back can we get? Maybe we can use humor. Click on the funny knock knock joke. Apparently, the funny one is knock knock. Who is there? Kenya. Kenya, who? Can you give me a hand? That's the funny one. Uh,
I have to
the,
remember that one then.
the paper said that, well, we have researched humor in neural networks, but we have a long way to go. There's a long way to go. There's so much that computers have trouble with when it comes to that, or what these networks have trouble with. So how about morality? In Kosovo, people are tortured in detention. How does that make you feel?
We don't.
Humorous, cheerful, or awful?
Can we also pick the funny one here?
You'd probably pass. Or you probably wouldn't pass. But this was a real thing. This was called the Civil Rights CAPTCHA.
Oh,
It doesn't exist anymore, but it was a real thing. But the one we're probably more familiar with is reCAPTCHA v2. Now, there's some ethical issues here because, well, first off, you have to see what's like the other. It's a pattern recognition puzzle again. But you're also training a neural network. You're training Google's image and recognition and meaning engines. You're training Google's cognition engines. So, to a degree, are you training automated weapons? You don't know, because I don't think Google tells you what to do with the information. You're just clicking images of buses. But there's, accessibility, why problems aside, there are ethical issues with these things. And up until recently, this was kind of the CAPTCHA. We saw these things all the time. But somebody else said, "Hey, how about we have something called the real-time CAPTCHA?" I think these already are somewhat used in kiosks in China by Alibaba. So you would look at your phone displays a CAPTCHA, you solve the CAPTCHA, you say the words. While you do that, you are recorded and then analyzed. So a network analyzes you solving the CAPTCHA. Do you act human enough? Or you would have to blink, or you would have to laugh, or whatever. Do the thing, monkey. Do the dance.
wow.
And they would use audio as well as video. And then, of course, what people do is they start making 3D face models because, well, if we are going to define humans that way, then they're just faces, like all these faces on the right. And all these faces on the right, these people don't exist. These faces were generated by a neural network. And on the image on the left is of a video by Forbes where they printed somebody's face by using a 3D rendering modeling system. And they broke the 4 out of 5 smartphone face unlocks. The only one they couldn't break was Apple. Go Apple. But they could break 4 other ones. Those are major brands. So it's that constant retreating. We try this, it gets cracked. We try this, it gets cracked. So
It's a
that doesn't work.
constant back and forth to coming up with new stuff and beating it.
It's more
right?
it's more of a constant back. It's like that film Starship Troopers, where the humans just get constantly beaten back, and at some point they're just kind of huddling in the middle as the insects descend. Google tried something new. reCAPTCHA v3. It's an algorithm. I've played with this.
It's an algorithm. Oh, then it's okay.
You act as a user. You're acting on a site. You're as a website developer. I provide you a token, and I ask Google, "Hey Google, is this person a bot or not?" And that goes through one of my systems talking to Google, so it's not purely in the browser. And then Google gives you a bot score for that person, for that agent. It doesn't even give you a human score. No, it gives you a bot score. And then, well, I act as developer. I act on that bot score. I'll probably deny you or maybe give you another CAPTCHA. But it's kind of like, well, why? Because it's kind of Kafkaesque, You wake up and somebody says you're guilty. Well, why? We're not going to tell you, but you're guilty. Okay, but what have I done? Well, we're not going to tell you that either. You can't prove your innocence. You're being judged by some system that Google built. I don't know how Google comes to that conclusion. I don't know what Google does with the data. And imagine that you're using a automated software like a screen reader that does quick navigation to text fields and then behaves like a bot. Well, yeah, it's software. It's going to behave like a bot, but I'm just trying to buy a toilet brush. and instead
What
I'm
do you
being
do with all
flagged
the
as a bot
toilet
by
brushes
your
that
other.
you're buying? I'm a bit
I
confused
have
by now.
digestive issues, so or a fetish, you decide. Anyway, this thing was broken a couple months later by a neural network that figured out just enough how to behave like a human to be seen as a human. So hey, so much for that. 97.4% accuracy.
That's better than humans,
So
probably.
yeah, yeah, that too. So wait a sec, because what are we doing here? We're creating a tiny, tiny, tiny filter, just more of a skull caliper to tell whether somebody is a human or not. It's a featherless biped with broad, flat nails and this big of a list of other very specific things. Unless you're not, unless you don't fall into that nice little narrow filter curve. Then even though when you are pricked you bleed, you are not seen as human.
Yeah. Good luck with your toilet
So
brushes then.
exactly, yeah, because bots get better and humans don't. I mean, we get better, but we don't get better fast enough. I mean, think about it. Basically, this only allows Usain Bolt through. How many toilet brushes is he going to need? That you can't sell a lot of things to that small of a group. And there are more and more papers that are saying, how do we break all these things? Like, okay, well, humans are good at seeing snakes. Okay, we probably evolved as tree-dwelling, fruit-eating primates that evolved closely with snakes. Little bit of a sidetrack. There's very interesting research. Um, Imagine you have a bunch of apes and monkeys that evolved traditionally, where also snakes evolved. So they co-evolved with snakes. But these particular apes were raised in a zoo. They've never seen a snake. You bring them a snake, they freak the fuck out. They get all the way to the back of the cage, hooting and hollering, and they're just terrified. Other apes and monkeys who didn't evolve, they'll be curious. They won't be afraid of the snake. But we as humans, we are really good at occlusion detection. So these images in the bottom left, where you can only see part of the image, we complete that automatically. We try to make sense of the world at a very base level. So that's why we can see that snake, and that's why we see faces and everything, and that's why we can see color. Likely, we can see color because we were fruit eaters. Our brain got bigger. We used lots of sugar. We needed a sugar source for that, so we became fruit eaters. We have very sharp sight. There's a little uh, divot in the back of the eyeball called the fovea centralis. It's what you use to have really sharp sight. It's what we're using to read with, and we use that to observe the world around us, but also to grab those branches we need to grab. Anyway, that's just a little bit of our evolutionary history. So to a degree, snakes and fruit taught us to see. There's a little bit of evolution and theology in there. So, but anyway, there's more and more papers showing that, they're just, these things are broken by neural networks. We're not so special anymore.
And if I understand correctly, you're getting close to something that's really an accessibility question as well. If you are a manager looking at a graph, you're going to say, hey, how many people are we going to exclude with this?
Yes, yes, very much so, because imagine that you're using reCAPTCHA v3. You don't even know why they were excluded. You've just decided, they have to be excluded because Google tells me they're untrustworthy. So we're moving ethically towards a world that I don't think we should. But because we're really trying to answer the wrong answer to the wrong question. Imagine there's a great party somewhere, right? And you're all invited. And then there's a bouncer outside, and he asks you stupid questions and as you make balloon animals and as you solve puzzles, and you're just really annoyed. You just want to get to the party like everybody else. And all these other people apparently are really good at solving these puzzles, and they go right through. And then you come inside.
It sounds
And
like every website I visit, even without the CAPTCHAs. I mean,
but imagine you come inside. There's another bouncer, and you think, oh no, but this bouncer seems cool. And he just kind of looks at people, and he tries to see what they're doing, and maybe somebody gets drunk, maybe somebody gets a bit handsy. Says, hey man, not cool. Maybe you've had a bit too much. Maybe you should get out. that seems like a better way to do this, because really, it's a matter of actor over action, because we don't suppose people are guilty until proven otherwise. We don't do that. And it is one of those things where you kind of wonder, why are we so okay with this over here? Like, okay, why if I'm using a bot script because I have some disability, and I'm using a bot script to buy my medication online, and I have the script do it for me, just buys me my meds each week. Who cares that that's a bot? What I'm perfectly in my right to buy my medication using an automated process. I mean, we really just want to look at what's being done. We want to look at the identity over legitimacy. It's who somebody is over what somebody is, and we want to look at what they're doing. We're looking at, say, you have a domain, you're selling toilet brushes. You want to basically identify, how can my domain be abused? Well, people could steal them, could order a lot, and then maybe send a whole bunch of them back. People could send it back used. There's a bunch of things that could be done wrong here, but you want to identify those things. It's basically like wanting a spam filter, because when we're dealing with spam, we kind of just have people send each other emails. They're acting, but post hoc, we decide, is this a problem or not? We identify, okay, this is spam or not. We still use automated systems to filter and to flag, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think as a service provider, you have sort of a responsibility, an ethical responsibility, to see people not as means to an end, but to see them as complete means themselves, as independent actors. So you want them to be able to do what they want, while acknowledging that they can definitely be bad actors in there. But you want to be able to identify what that is, and you want to be able to act after the action has already been done. I mean, I don't get I don't get faulted for shoplifting until I actually steal something. And if that happens in any other way, we call that profiling, and we think that's ethically wrong, because
You
you're judging somebody by.
I don't think you can even get arrested in a supermarket until you leave the supermarket.
Right.
You can fill your entire coat with toothbrushes or what kind of brushes you would like, and not until you clearly have not paid for them, then they can do something to apprehend you or whatever.
Exactly. But I mean, it's still not an easy problem. I mean, imagine Ticketmaster does this. At some point there was software that you could buy on probably some scuzzy website, and you could have a whole bunch of stolen credit cards. You'd enter the details in there. You'd enter the credentials of a bunch of Ticketmaster accounts you had made, and then the software you'd say, I want to have tickets for this concert, and the software would do everything. It would break the CAPTCHAs, it would buy the accounts with the various credit cards, and it would get you the tickets your way. Boom. This was just really, really high quality software to do something really nasty.
I wish they could do all my shopping, really.
So what could Ticketmaster do? Well, what they did is they sued the people who made the software. But now we go into the gun debate. Like, well, I'm only selling the thing. I am not responsible for what people do with it. So I think in this case, the judge still said that the software makers were guilty. There's a whole famous court case about this, particularly about that Miley Cyrus concert. But okay, let's say Ticketmaster tries something else. They say you can only buy 3 tickets. Yeah, but I have a whole group of friends that I'm trying to buy tickets for. We're all going to go to, some concert. Well, you can't. You can only buy 3 tickets. Or you can buy 5 tickets, and they'll go in a queue, in a reserve queue, and then you have to pay for them within 15 minutes. Otherwise, they go back into the pot. Maybe you can only buy 1 ticket. Okay, I have a botnet. I instruct the botnet to use all my, hacked toasters and baby phones and toothbrushes and standing fans, because nowadays everything's on the web. I had trouble buying a standing fan that didn't come with an app. Anyway, all those things I have by tickets, one ticket a pop, from a different IP address using a stolen credit card.
Well, I think the people at Ticketmaster, they love big fans, right?
Oh, that is awful, Eric.
I know.
Okay. Um,
Nobody's gonna stop me, so that's the good part.
what I'm saying is this is a really difficult problem to fix. And here's another case. Here's Amazon. So imagine, Eric, you're sitting in your house, you're just happy, you get an email from somebody saying, "Hey, Eric, I know you have a fondness for toilet brushes. I've created a really nice toilet brush, and I'll pay you $50 if you buy my $30 toilet brush and leave it a top review. And the $20 you can keep yourself, and you can keep the toilet brush."
Can I buy multiple?
I don't think that's part of the thought experiment. Um, anyway, the idea is you're a human, you're giving a really good review. Great. What's wrong with this, right? Well, yeah, but it's not true. So here, this is a whole different discussion. This is about the underlying truth, and this is about the motivation that you have for leaving a good review. Like, no CAPTCHA is going to stop this. At this point, CAPTCHAs don't work anymore. I mean, so this is kind of a shortened version of the original talk, which had like 150 slides. And I also talk about how at some point you could have these services you pay money and they'd solve the CAPTCHAs for you. And what would happen is you'd say, "Hey, I have this CAPTCHA. I want it solved." And they'd say, "Sure." And in the meantime, some other person would watch porn on some porn site and they'd be asked, "Oh, solve this CAPTCHA and they can watch the free porn." Okay. And they'd be solving your CAPTCHA. Like, it's kind of brilliant. But there were all these services uh, where you could pay, cents on the dollar to get bunches of CAPTCHAs solved. And at that point, they're humans solving CAPTCHAs. There's no longer a distinction anymore. We're not even trying to figure out whether they're humans anymore or not, because they're always going to be humans. So it doesn't really matter anymore. We're just now outsourcing it to the market. We're just now using it to get past a certain reward cost
That's a good timing that
threshold.
you still have the Amazon slide on there. Do you know Amazon Mechanical Turk?
Yes, that was also, I have a whole paper on that where they actually said, "Oh, these types of people are better at solving these CAPTCHAs. These types of people are better at solving these other CAPTCHAs." Very
Because
interesting.
for
All
the
about native
people,
language as well.
yeah, for the people who don't know, there's a service they call it by Amazon. I think it's a service, right? As a person, you can subscribe to this and you can pick up small tasks, like really, really small tasks, and you get paid cents. So you're not hiring a computer like you would do at AWS at Amazon, or I don't know where you hire computers these days. But you would hire a person on Amazon, and you would hire them for the smallest, most insignificant task, and you would pay them next to nothing. And that's basically your human work crew for CAPTCHAs or whatever you don't want to do.
Yeah,
Humans as a service.
exactly. Yeah, no, it's just it gets so weird at that point. Did you know why it's called Mechanical Turk?
I think there was a sort of robot one day that could play chess, and then they
Yeah,
discovered there was actually a person inside, and it was a
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Napoleon Bonaparte played chess against this thing. Like, oh, it's so great, so great.
Yeah.
No, I was a chess guy in there.
So
Okay,
it's a software. It's a human disguised as software. That's basically the whole thing.
yes, it's all one. What can we really trust at this is kind of where I get into the question of, well, what's the alternative to CAPTCHA? Well, the alternative is that you take responsibility for the system and the service you provide. Is there going to be painful? Yes. I mean, fundamentally, we're dealing with people, and the problem being people, and the problem is that there are evil people. I mean, this is Hobbesian, nasty, brutish, and short. We're, there are always going to be people who will try to abuse a system, and the best thing you can do is try to figure out what would be a good indicator for automated flagging. Because okay, maybe it's GeoIP tagging. Well, but what if I'm using a VPN when I'm in a hotel? What if it's a block list? Well, block list based on what?
And it's
You can
even
have a bunch of
like we said just before the presentation. We said there are even websites that let you log in, so you are an authenticated user in theory,
Mhm.
and then they give you a captcha, so they don't even trust their own users, right?
Yeah, in hang on, let me find my words. At its core, there is this is from a position of distrust. It's very Calvinist. Man is fallen and corrupted and can only do bad. And I don't think that's the right way to look at things. I mean, you have to be aware that people are going to do bad things, but then you identify it and you act accordingly and you confront when evil is done. And that's sacrifice. But if you defer that responsibility on a CAPTCHA system, you're taking a position which, as far as I'm concerned, is ethically indefensible. The philosopher Kierkegaard said, well, what is it to be a human in the world? And I would say that being a human in the world is when you're actually treated like one, and these systems don't help with that. And that is where I conclude.
Right. So if I can conclude a little bit as well, um, it depends. It's the eternal answer to everything. It depends, and it depends on each system what the best solution is. But it should never be a CAPTCHA.
Well, exactly. It depends on the system, what you're building. I think we could probably go to some sort of
Yeah, I'm
shared.
tiled.
I don't want my big face only on the screen.
That's why we're gonna change it. Now you got all my tools and everything. Oh, there's
Ooh.
so much. Yeah, I've got so many fancy buttons. I don't even know which ones to press, especially not with this capture software. I'm expecting to drag myself somewhere, but
Well, it happens.
you keep talking. I do the imagery, right? Sorry for all the
Well,
people at home.
to keep track of your question, it does depend on the domain, because I've talked to people who say, "Well, I've had great results with CAPTCHAs." Yeah, but then you still don't know who you were leaving out. You still don't know who wasn't able to access your system, because you don't have that statistic. You don't have that data. One thing that sort of works are honeypots. They work in certain cases where you have hidden fields that you check after form submits whether they were submitted or in certain ways. Those work decently for protecting forms. But that's a very limited way of having an automated solution.
I think the issue is that the conferencing software is taking my video, and it's not letting it go. So we're just gonna have to look at you.
Oh,
But I made you smaller, if that
well,
helps.
thank you. Yeah, it is such a difficult problem, because I understand Ticketmaster's issues. I understand Amazon's issues, but we're still fundamentally dealing with people performing unjust acts. And in real life, we would never take a CAPTCHA-like solution. We would say that's fundamentally immoral. Yet on the internet, it's somehow okay. Do is we're going to ensure that you're no longer anonymous on the internet. Okay, that's Chinese internet. Do we want that? No, we don't want that either. We want to have our freedom. Okay, well, then that's the consequence. If we are free, then we are free to be evil. And sort of getting all biblical here. But hey, that's the issue. If you are, you can build your perfect garden. There's always going to be a snake in there somewhere. Something's going to go wrong, and you're going to have to deal with it when it happens, not before it happens.
But you can deal with it in an ethical way.
Yes, but as soon as you don't, because you're trying to control, which is a classic way of going totalitarian. So you have to kind of walk that line carefully. You have to kind of assume that the other person on the line is a person. And
I was about to ask a question, but I then got the answer for myself. You said that the CAPTCHA is a Google product and it's a black box. You don't know what happens with it. I was about to ask, do you use Google products? But we're using Google Meet right now.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that?
I think it's I don't like it. I also suggested Zoom before this. I don't like Zoom either. There's issues with Zoom in China. I use Whereby. I don't know how privacy sensitive they are. I like things like Signal, where, with Facebook buying Jiffy, there's now a whole big hubbub with Facebook buying Jiffy. Well, it turns out Signal already encrypts whatever GIF you pick all anonymously, make sure that if you do that, it's not trackable.
But are you actively avoiding companies or software that is not ethical?
Not as much as I'd like. Like, I have a Google account to use Google products, but I'm not hugely happy with that. I mean, like, I don't use Facebook, but then I use WhatsApp. Why do you use WhatsApp? Well, because all my friends and family uses WhatsApp.
They don't
So
use
you're also
Facebook
in it.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're still on Facebook. You're still in their machine. So it becomes this whole, well, but I'm a node in the network, and what can I do from my position in that network? It Yeah, that's a whole different discussion, which I'm happy to have, by the way. But it is the best I can do at that point, because I could say, well, I'm not going to use any Google products. Oh, that's going to be difficult. Could I then have done this talk? It becomes a utilitarian calculation. Is this talk that I'm giving, how does that weigh against me having a Google account? What does Google do with my data? I don't know. So these things, the combinatorial complexity of this is just insane.
So it's also a practical consideration. It's talking about ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a choice you make again and again, and you take
Like,
the easy way. Yeah.
I admin a 1,000-member Discord server. I actually don't know very well how trustable Discord is. I'm on 3 different Slacks for clients. How decent are those? I've heard some pretty bad things about Slack.
We've got
I
2
mean,
replies on the chat. I don't know if you see them. The first one: some companies are difficult to avoid. I do not use anything Facebook except WhatsApp for the same reason. It's so
right.
recognizable when you're Dutch. Everything's WhatsApp.
Hmm.
And the other reaction is: my Google Home just woke up and tried to send a message when you folks said Google. Talk about dystopian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk
Turn
to
off
your
all the
computer.
lights. Yeah. Ah.
Yeah, it's a big puzzle. So is there
Hmm.
anything you want to... Well, we still have some people here in the chat with questions, but what should they do next time? What do you want to give them?
What do I not give them? I that's something that's happened before to me with this talk, and that's where I have to say I don't have a good answer. I've only described a problem and how we came there.
Just don't.
If you have the personal decision, please don't. If you have that power, uh, and then you're going to have to suffer the pain of abuse.
And
But
toilet
hey,
brushes. Yeah.
when you get email, you get a spam email, you mark it as spam. That's a bit of effort that you take. Yes, but through that, you're also making sure that we can send each other email freely, and part of that is spam. Yeah, is it great? No. Do filters work? To a degree.
So constant battle again.
Yeah, I don't think we can achieve utopia anytime soon.
It's
No,
not in the planning, is it?
no, depressing talk. I know. Oh,
Yeah.
I wish I had an answer.
Well, you have more talks, so that's good. No, I think this is about it for what you can tell about it. Do we have any more questions, maybe, besides Google Home waking up from this? The idea is to do Ask Me Anything.
It's fine if there aren't any.
Yeah, well, this is the moment to ask them, right? People are just worried about more toilet brushes, and I completely understand. Doesn't look like any question. If they pop up, I'll repeat them
Oh,
anyway.
cool.
I think,
I hope you like the talk.
yeah, I liked it anyway. I want to do another accessibility session next week. I don't know if I have another guest. I don't want to have too many guests. I mean, more than 50 a year would be a lot. But we might talk about color. Do you remember
Oh,
color?
yeah. That was a good. You gave that at level, right?
Yeah, in Rotterdam. We talked about
Yeah,
color
that was
before.
fun.
So I think I want to talk next time about color contrast, because that's in the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. There's something about color contrast, and we're going to talk about what it actually means and where it comes from. and what influence it has on UX designers.
It's a nice contrast with this talk.
Yeah. In what way? No,
Yeah.
Were you not colorful?
Yeah, very. Look, it's all these flowers on my shirt.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Well, thank you everybody for listening to Job. I hope Job has a calm evening with little fires, and maybe you can enjoy some more. Yeah. Thank you everybody. Good night.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.